Boy, gets. I know the recording started, but hello. I just wanted to do a little intro. I normally don't do a little intro because I'm live streaming too, and it's a little awkward. But I'm gonna be honest. This really upset me. This really upset me. Uh, we did the reaction of Emiru lately. Me and my boy Koger. I think I uploaded it. The audio was kind of dookie. I had another video. The audio is kind of dookie. I'm trying to fix it. Um, but I just I've been through not like what Emiru has been through, but I've also been a victim of. I'm trying to keep it PG to see if I can get the 18 restriction. This is gonna be a really hard video. We're gonna try, and I'm gonna also try to go nuclear. If I need to, I'll just start censoring it, which I don't think I'm that good at. But I'm trying to contain myself because this gets me really. Almost said it. Gets me really freaking mad. Really freaking mad. Uh, Basically the subject is Taylor Lorenz. I don't know. I I don't care if you guys are upset about like pre-watching or whatever. I heard a little bit of this at work when I had my AirPods in. This is disgusting. This is disgusting in my eyes. Like she's a disgusting person for doing this, and I don't know. We'll just get into it. I guess I'll run a little bit of Left 4 Dead in the background. I mean, like, I don't really care what to play. It's just something spooky. And, well, the whole thing is. How to mute that. Jesus. The whole thing is just disgusting. Like, I don't even. I have so many other words that I can't say out loud right now. This game is still loud as hell. We'll just get into it. We'll just get into it. I already have it loaded up. This is great. This is peak right here. I think I gotta do. Make sure game. Let's see if it. I knew it'd be. All right. She basically just covered up for Twitch. Um. During a assault case, and I just find that disgusting. Like I'm still like shocked or whatever. I'm still dumbfounded.
Talked about the kind of the unique bonds that people have, and I've seen it so much firsthand.
I have this just in case she says something stupid. Just in case.
It's not just that there's no deterrent to this behavior, but it's actually rewarded by the platform and socially by other men.
Last weekend, popular cosplay Twitch streamer Emiru was assaulted at a meet and greet during TwitchCon. A man cut across several meet and greet lines and attempted to grab her for a kiss as she tried to push him away. Her security guard quickly intervened and pushed the man off, but the man exited the building and was never restrained. The incident was obviously a catastrophic failure when it comes to keeping women creators safe. The man should have never been allowed to walk away after what he did, and it's unclear why her security guard didn't restrain the man after pushing him off. It's also unclear why TwitchCon security or the police on the scene didn't step in and attempt to halt the man from leaving. The man was eventually caught hours after the incident, and Emiru is currently pressing charges. She said, quote, "He was allowed to walk away from my meet and greet, and I didn't hear he was caught until hours after he attacked me. It felt like this only happened because of my manager pressing for it, not because TwitchCon staff present thought it was a big deal." All of this has raised tons of questions about security protocols at TwitchCon and what should be done going forward to make the convention more safe. Even before TwitchCon began,
the whole start of this is just unironically a bunch of let me read other people's news articles.
Here, high-profile streamers including Cutie Cinderella, Valkyrie, and others declined to attend the event over safety concerns. After the Emiru incident, tons of big content creators began piling on Twitter, pushing out-of-context clips attempting to show lax security at the event and calling for Twitch CEO Dan Clancy's resignation. Of course, most of these people actually don't give a shit about women's safety. They're just opportunists, and we're going to get into all that. But why am I talking about all of this on Free Speech Friday? I think it's a good example of how more surveillance and security theater doesn't inherently keep people safe. And I think it shows the significant barriers women face as content
So now that I'm actually like able to hear all this, so she's saying it doesn't matter how much security or clearance you have, you're still going to be in danger. So with that implication, she's saying that this was very secure. But then literally 2 minutes ago read an article about how Emiru couldn't Emiru's bodyguard did something before Twitch did something. But like you're saying their surveillance, and I want to be correct on those words, surveillance and whatever the hell, I can't even remember the exact wording. You're saying that that's peak, like that's top.
Creators, and how relentless abuse and harassment silences women and prevents them from speaking out and expressing themselves. To discuss all of this, I have Kat Tenbarge here. Kat is one of the top journalists covering gender-based harassment and abuse, and today we're going to break down exactly what went down at TwitchCon, why you shouldn't listen to a lot of the loudest voices online, and what can actually be done to keep women safe on the internet and off. Kat, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me.
So you weren't at TwitchCon. I wish you were there. But I feel like just to start off, I want to give people a sense of what TwitchCon was like. And then I kind of want to compare it to other conventions that you and I have both been at. Because I feel like we both cover these large events and conventions a lot and attend this stuff. So I think a lot of people have seen a lot of misinformation going around. And I want to explain kind of the way things went down. So I would say this security at this convention was stricter than any other convention.
Okay. She did say than any other convention that she's probably going to finish that we've been to. But I don't think she's on the internet, because the whole thing is that like a lot of people didn't want to go to TwitchCon because it's not as secure. Like they're all scared to go. So like, are you hearing what other people are saying, or are you just going by your personal appearance? Because, and by the way, yes, I did watch the fucking Jesus. I'm gonna cuss anyways. I don't care. I'm gonna get mad. This Dan Clancy interview of how he felt about the situation, and she got a private tour. Yeah, of course it looks good. Like it was a private tour of the security. Because you're a reporter.
We'll get into why that doesn't make things safer. But it was very strict in the sense that like you had to have a wristband, you had to scan in to get to different areas. They were very strict about maintaining that. There was this video online that claimed to show someone bypassing the wrist scanning system. In fact, that's not what that video shows. I reached out to the company about how those machines work. That video actually shows.
Can you show you talking to the company about it? Because that is possibly the dumbest thing I think I've ever heard you say. Like, you're telling me that you saw a video on Twitch, or sorry, you saw a video on Twitter, and you were like, yeah, let me go reach out to that company to see if this is true. I knew what you were talking about with the Hassan Caller. You were telling us that, like, what QT Cinderella saw and touched with their own hands isn't real. We saw that. I'm not going to let you play dumb on me. These zombies are just really not attacking today.
Scanning and it turning orange, which meant that that person was a credentialed +1. So it actually showed the system working, but it was really, it was pretty.
Also, thank God you brought that up. Emiru literally, I'm going to be really pressed if she didn't watch Emiru's video. I'm going to be really pressed if she didn't watch Emiru's video. Because she said in her video that they were talking to Twitch security or whatever, and they said, oh yeah, we thoroughly checked the people with wristbands. And she's like, what about their +1s? And they're like, nah. Like, she says that in her video. God forbid. God forbid this woman did not watch that video.
Pretty intense. I mean, I couldn't even get into the venue when I got there the first day initially because I hadn't passed a background check. And every single person that registered for the event had to go through this like background check security review, essentially to make sure that they weren't on a known stalker list or had sort of criminal records, things like that. So I do think that it was very quote unquote secure, even more so than any other convention that I've been to, where I think journalists and a lot of people have a lot more free roam. I was in the the content creator space myself with Twitch comms down there. And like, I saw people even getting stopped, featured creators being stopped and asked questions and things like that. I'm curious, like your perception from the outside. I'm sure you've seen a lot of the discourse online, but like, how would you say it compared to other conventions from what you saw?
I think just from like a technological perspective alone, there were more measures in place.
I feel so dumb because when she said technological, I got like stun locked. I'm still kind of stun locked. Hold up.
Just from like a technological.
Is that a word? Relating to or using technology. I hate people who are like really book smart, bro. You don't need to say these big
alone, words. There were more measures in place at this convention than any other convention that I've ever been to. And that includes conventions for YouTube. It includes like VidCon and Playlist Live, as well as like anime and comic cons and other types of conventions.
These are like, besides VidCon, anime conventions are a really bad example. Because a lot of crazy stuff happens at some of those conventions. Like, people are infamous for not, like if you see this person, you leave the area. Like, that's how bad it is. But at least what's cool about that is at least the community, like, warns each other, you know? Like, hey, don't go around this guy. Twitch, anybody could just go to Twitch. Like, they're not infamous weeaboos. I mean, there's obviously anonymous weirdos in anime events and stuff, but like, that's just a bad example.
And even concerts and stuff, like you have seen sort of this industry of security technology grow. And this to me is sort of like looking at sort of what I was just seeing in viral videos. I'm like, they don't usually have this type of stuff at these types of venues.
Yeah, the whole energy was like very kind of tense around it. I mean, there were these big female streamers that chose not to go because of concerns around safety.
There we go.
It had the vibe to me of VidCon.
She didn't even say that.
The Christina Grimmie murder,
Taylor didn't say that. It was her buddy.
Was murdered by a fan, and YouTube and VidCon really cracked down the next year, where they sort of started to realize like we really need to protect talent. It was significantly more secure than certainly Playlist Live, which we were both at a while ago. And I'm just speaking purely from influencer events because I think that those sort of engender a certain type of fandom. It was the most secure, quote unquote, influencer event that I've been at. When I toured Twitch's security center the day after the Emiru incident, I was struck by the surveillance.
The day after the Emiru incident, that's like that's literally Colorgate. We're talking about Colorgate now. We're going back to Colorgate, being like, literally, he showed the collar a day after. Like, what's the big deal? Like, he literally showed it the next day, 24 hours later, when it's literally on the dog. Like, why didn't you take a tour that day? During the Emiru incident. Were you not there during the Emiru incident?
Of it all.
I mean, valid if you weren't.
Not only did they have police officers, plainclothes officers, like constantly, throughout the venue, and security officers all over, but they had just this huge surveillance infrastructure. So they had 92 cameras set up in addition to all the security cameras in every single corner of the convention hall. And then they had every single live streamer. If you went live from TwitchCon, they had your stream pulled up, basically like geofenced the whole area and like pulled in every single stream on these massive like 1984 style monitors where they had, I literally think it was probably thousands of streams. Every single stream had like the person's name, whether they were partnered or not, like some information, and then just like the videos playing. And then they had dozens and dozens of analysts like sitting around analyzing, replaying footage, looking at people. I don't know if they were doing facial recognition or not, but it was certainly like they were zooming in on things, looking at social, monitoring it all. What struck me is that like they had essentially deputized these live streamers, IRL streamers, which are primarily men, to like go around and surveil the convention. And the argument was sort of, well, look, we have so much surveillance footage. This is how, like, this gives us extra monitoring. And it just, of course, showed to me, of course, surveillance does not mean safety. It just means more surveillance, especially when the people doing the surveillance are these troll live streamers. I think that was a huge difference.
So wait, now she's shitting on it now?
Conventions that I've been at as well. Aside from maybe 2015 VidCon, or maybe it was 2016 when Meerkat, remember like Meerkat and Periscope and everything came out? That was a year like a lot of people were live streaming, not in the same way. This was like true 1984 style. Like every single person was live streaming, and the convention was overrun with these IRL streamers, which is a category that has skyrocketed over the past year.
Yes, like this culture of IRL streaming, I think it's so important to point out that it is not done with like women's safety as like an interest. In fact, it's oftentimes
What? I'm so stun locked. I'm throwing my game. Wait. So the trend of IRL streaming becoming more popular needs to emphasize women's safety more. What? Women are just, this is just a reality. If you go outside, I hate to say it like this because I don't like it. It's disgusting that we have to live like this. But you are just inherently in more danger than you are as a man. Like, that's what women talk about all the time. Is it like, is that not the whole like bear thing that they were talking about? Like, they don't feel comfortable walking outside at night, stuff like that. Like, are we not like understanding that this is not like a Twitch thing? This is like, well, Twitch obviously has a bunch of misogynistic, disgusting people on it, but like IRL is just in real life. Like, that's what I'm like. I'm like separating Twitch from the, like, the category being popular just means people like the outside content more. It has nothing to do with misogyny.
Sometimes the exact opposite. So much of this type of streaming and what you see succeed on this platform and elsewhere is actually just like harassing women, which is a really interesting juxtaposition with like, we need more surveillance, when so often surveillance in itself is to the detriment of like women and marginalized people.
What? Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was struck when I was looking at this giant tile of like screens and streams, is that they were on mute. You know, I'm sure that you could click in and hear what was being said if you wanted to zoom in on certain people. But to me, it seemed very, the sort of surveillance was optimized for like physical security rather than the type of security that I would argue matters a lot as well, which is like, it is related to physical security, but it is like, you know, the hate and harassment and abuse. And we'll get into that. So let's talk about the Emiru situation, because I think this was the most clear security breach. Like, I just want to be clear. I'll say it again. I think this was such a catastrophic failure. It was horrible what happened to her. It was completely unacceptable. It's a nightmare. I've been assaulted on the job before. It's awful. I completely empathize with what the sort of the threats that people like her have to deal with. The fact that she was assaulted and it was her security guard that stepped in and not Twitch's security or the police that were around, that Twitch's security and the police just let him walk out of the venue, was absurd. I think talent probably should have been behind tables with security guards on each side. That's what they do for a lot of big celebrities at like Comic-Con and other events. When I did my book tour, I had to be behind a table at public events because I had so many threats and people threatening to harm me. But it seemed like this was just like a massive lapse in, you know, keeping women safe at the convention.
100%. And I also think that that really goes to show, and this is reflective of just like policing and security in general, but this rhetoric that like men in the vicinity will protect women, this is a perfect example of why that is not the case.
Why are you bringing this up when Twitch wouldn't let her have her own security? How are you guys like dodging this? Like, she openly said in her video Twitch would not let her have her favorite security guard, which saved her from a stalker last time. Why are you guys like putting this on like weird, super like clinically online bullshit, low-key? Let's be for real. Like, yeah, we all understand women out in life have it worse. We all know this. It sucks. But why are we blaming the state of the world, which we can barely control, instead of Twitch, which controls the entire area and allows like what rules can happen in a private event, and then doesn't allow her to have her own security guard? Like, why are we... It low-key feels like they're kind of putting it on her, and it's kind of crazy. Like, not on her, but like
personal security guard who stepped
I don't
in.
know.
But you do have all.
It's
of
the
these
way
men
they're
who are
dodging
tasked with
Twitch.
security standing
Like, they
around
get paid
who
by
just
Twitch.
Did not intervene, and that is not irregular. Like, that is a reflection of what happens when women go to the police and report that they have been assaulted or that they are being harassed. Like, it is not taken seriously, and I think that this just really does go to show.
Yeah, like
why
Twitch
putting
didn't take
people
it
in these
seriously.
positions, like men protecting women, it doesn't play out in real life. If anything, putting more men, more security in the situation can become more of a danger to women because you can't necessarily trust those specific individuals.
What? I'm not going to rephrase myself or re-say whatever I just said. They wouldn't allow her to have someone who's protected her before. They banned that guy. So tell me why you're saying more security, more men. I don't know why it has to be men. I don't care about the gender. You got enough bodies up there. People aren't going to push her. And there's some big women out there. If you want to worry about women, you could hire women security guards. It's not as popular, obviously, but there are plenty of women security guards. Like, this is low-key, like, they're being weird towards women. Like, it's just weird. Like, why are they defending Twitch so hard, saying, like, oh, they had good security, and even though they had good security, more men don't really like, they're kind of doing, like, I hate bringing Hassan up into this, but this is what their orbit does, dude. It's like, all of the other streamers, and they're gonna be like, oh yeah, look, he's another follower. I don't agree with everything that everyone says. I always have arguments with other streamers, and one of my favorites is Papaga, and one of my early videos is literally me arguing with him. Did it go well? No, because I wasn't prepared or anything. It was just spur of the moment, and he actually let me join. But it is me disagreeing with him. That is what I'm trying to build my channel off of, is showing my experience of just being kind of a normal dude. And what I'm seeing right now is the same shit that Hassan does, where with the shot caller, they're like, the claw got caught, but actually the claw didn't get caught. It's actually not a shot caller, it's a vibration caller. And even if it was a shot caller, it would actually be okay. That's what she's doing. She's saying there was a bunch of more security and surveillance doesn't necessarily mean safe. And then she goes, well, actually, look at all of this security and surveillance that there is, and it actually didn't do anything. And if there was security and surveillance, it wouldn't have mattered anyways. Like, okay, I guess.
Who have been tasked with, like, security.
I was so appalled when I heard that Emiru said that they were like laughing or sort of laughing off the incident. Like, I can understand if she was laughing because she has been through trauma, and often the trauma response would be to kind of like laugh it off and downplay it. But the people around her should have
because they're all woke
recognized how
lefties.
egregious and terrifying that was. And there's a few
they're all partnered up with Hassan because, and it's just a theory, but also, like, Hassan's really close with Twitch. Like, they let him get away with anything. So if they sit there and buddy with Twitch's pretty boy, playboy, or whatever you want to call him, if they buddy up with him, maybe they can pass the rules. Or maybe they just are, like, not any better than men, and they just find him hot and just do anything and say and do disgusting things towards women. Like, this to me is very disgusting towards women. Like, acting like they can't do anything no matter what. Like, they can't go outside because of the state of IRL streaming, apparently. Not real life problems. And how Twitch could have easily solved it with simply just adding more people. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm thinking too, is like, everyone doesn't say Hassan's a misogynist, but dude literally went to a German brothel, and they were known for having underage people there and tax evading. So,
things that happen too that I think show why more security does not mean more safety. First of all, this man who assaulted her was not a known entity. He wasn't on her like stalkers list.
Why can't they
this was just a bad
anything?
actor who went through the security checks. He didn't have, seemingly any sort of record that would have been flagged. He was able to buy a ticket. He was able to, cut across some lines, but people cut across lines. That doesn't inherently.
He didn't buy a ticket. He didn't have a wristband. He ran past. She didn't watch the video. She did not watch the video. The dude didn't have a wristband. I
mean that they're going to like violate someone. I think the point is that like he had a badge. He was a registered ticket holder.
He didn't have a badge. He didn't. Why is she lying? She's a news reporter who doesn't know how to like look anything up. She didn't even watch Emiru's video. She's advocating for someone's sexual assault, and she didn't even watch the response. Journalism. Sorry. Tech journalism. Talking about a sexual assault case as a tech journalist. Just
say he had waited in line to do that. That would have been just as bad. I don't think you can know people's intention, and that's what's so scary, right?
And then, like, oh my god, she's flashbanging me. She's flashbanging me, bro. It's making me so mad. She's literally sitting here and saying, I can't even think. It's kind of not crazy to jump over barriers. I think the first thing as a security guard is like, if we did a list, all right, top 3 list of what I would jump on someone's ass for. But let's go bottom. I would probably not jump on someone's ass if they were arguing with someone. Someone's getting a little heated, they're yelling, whatever. Second thing that I might jump on someone's ass for, like 50-50. If they're in someone's face, screaming their head off, and like screaming their head off, I'm like, okay, maybe I might get up to them and I'm like, hey, depending on what's happening, I might jump on them. The first one, jumping over barriers to get to the stage. You are getting tackled on site. I don't know what's going on in her brain to think, oh, literally, I want this to be heard again. I need this to be heard again.
That would have been a ticket holder. I think the point is that like he had a badge. He was a registered ticket holder. He had every right. Say he had waited in line to do that. That would have been just as bad. I don't think you can. I think the cross some lines, but he was able to buy a ticket. He was able to cut across some lines, but people cut across.
He didn't cross some lines. He literally jumped over barriers, bro. He literally jumped over barriers. Like, got over barriers, got on stage, and hurt her. I don't know.
Cross lines, that doesn't inherently mean that they're going to like violate someone. I think the point is that like he had a badge. He was a registered ticket holder. He had every right. Say he had waited in line to do that. That would have been just as bad. I don't think you can know people's intention, and that's what's so scary, right? Is that like somebody could just wait in line and have the intention to harass or attack a woman, and they could do that, right?
Yes, and I even saw someone suggest that like as an increased measure of security, they could have like a security guard walk each individual person up to do the meet and greet.
I don't even care that I got hit by a charger, bro. Bro. They banned her bodyguard. This is why I was so mad in the Emiru video. I need Emiru to go nuclear. I need her to grab Twitch by the balls and flip them on their ass. I low-key might not even stream on Twitch after this stuff. I'm not lying to you. I am so against Twitch when it came to how nobody got in trouble for saying 9/11 Hassan quote, everyone knows it. Or how about Frogan saying Vietnam veterans deserve PTSD after Agent Orange? Or how about, oh my god. All right, let's even I'm not even gonna bring it all up, bro.
But again, would that have stopped him from assaulting her? No.
Yes.
And I feel like this also sort of like reflects this kind of underlying desire to control other people and to be able to like predict when someone is going to become violent, like to be able to respond to things in advance of them happening, which at a very basic level just is not possible. And I think a lot of people's
So we should just allow them to run free and do whatever the hell they want. Just let them do whatever the hell they want. We can't stop them and predict them anyways. We've never been able to stop and predict somebody's violence. Ever. We've never been able to do that.
Reaction of like, we need more security, we need like more people out there. I understand where it comes from. It comes from like a primal fear of not being able to know when you're in danger and not being able to like keep yourself out of danger 100% of the time, which is also where security theater comes from.
I mean, I just think, like you said, it's so scary because I think there were tables available for the creators. Most creators stand in front. They're incentivized to give their fans hugs. When I talk to other creators about like, hey, why weren't you behind a table with 2 security guards? They're like, well, my fans want to take selfies. Like influencers especially are encouraged, and both of us have written some.
What does she mean by influencers are encouraged heavily? Why do I care? Like, I don't know anyone on the internet. I always love and appreciate the support I get. I don't know any of these dudes who watch my streams or anything. Besides my best friends, if I got Wongly Bongly 732 in my stream, I don't know who that dude is. Why am I obliged or encouraged to hang out or hug him? Dude could be a Nazi. We don't know who these people are. And that's like case in one right there. Right there. What happened to Emiru? We don't know who these people are.
So much about this, like encouraged to develop these parasocial fandoms. If you seem inaccessible, I mean, look at the response to Cutie Cinderella and the other female streamers that decided not to go. They were lambasted and dragged through the mud. Caroline Kwan had a security guard with her and people were attacking her and criticizing her like, oh, who do you think you are? You know, you need security. Like, yes, she does.
I would love to see anybody judging women in real life. I nailed that. In real life. I need to see it in real life. Not on Twitter, where you see a bunch of demons who've never seen a woman in real life sit online and sit in their mom's basement say, you are pathetic if you need security as a woman. And I advocate it as a man, but I'm tired of like me, like I really do try to like I talk about this to my girlfriend all the time. I really try to talk to her and teach her things so she doesn't have to go in real life and men go, oh, you don't know because you're a woman. And like for other women too, I really try to help them, and they always help, and like we always talk everything through, figure everything out. Like we work together. It's literally no different than a man. Literally the only difference is that, and I hate to say it because it's just reality. So they're just smaller. Men just are genetically bigger. That's just it. They think the same. They act the same. Like I've known girls who've done better work than me, or all the other guys around me. Sometimes they just have better work ethic. It just goes per person. So the idea that these women are completely defenseless and there's nothing you can do about it is just disgusting to me.
I was even nervous myself. I had 2 men travel.
Because I also think that Emiru is completely powerful enough to flip Twitch completely on its ass. Like, they kind of want her to just be like, oh, well, I mean, don't blame Twitch for this. Like, they did all they could. Just like Papa Gus said, I heard him say that 9 times. Let's get the brooms out. Let's get the brooms out and start sweeping for Twitch after this sexual assault they could have easily dodged if they allowed her to have her own security and set up for her own security. But instead they banned him. They literally banned her security. So she didn't have her favorite security guard.
to TwitchCon specifically to confront me, you know, because of some beef that they have perceived, you know, with me and some streamer. I have no streamer beef, but like, you know, whatever, because I'm talked about on these people's channels. I have a very well-known stalker who constantly tries to attend events that I'm at. Like, I had to be escorted out of a VidCon panel a couple years ago by 4 security guards. Right after the panel, I wasn't even allowed to at the front of VidCon that year because I had a streamer fan actually threatening to assault me. And like I said, I have been assaulted on the job. So I just say all that to say that, like, you and I both know what it's like, not to mention all the harassment that we receive online. Like, we know what it's like to suffer this sort of gender-based violence. And I think that, like, if we want to talk about what keeps women safe, it's not just like more cops standing around doing nothing. Like, that is not going to prevent this stuff. It's not more like,
why would the cops do anything? Why would the cops do anything? As if they didn't, like, she's literally taking him to court. If he doesn't show up to court, what do you think is happening to him? You think the police are just like, oh well, he's gone, bye-bye. No! He's going to jail. He's literally going to jail. What makes you think police being there, more police being there, would do nothing? They would see a woman getting assaulted on stage and they're like, eh. Do you know why that stuff happens with police? It's because they have to hear it after the fact. And I'm going to hear some horrible horror stories on the internet where it's like, well, I was actually assaulted in front of a police officer. They did nothing. I'm sorry. I'm extremely sorry that happened to you, and I wish that never happened to you. But I'm trying to be a little more realistic with this. If she was allowed to have her own security and there was more security there, literally other people would go to the event. I hate that I have to repeat this over and over and over again.
Or whatever. It is fundamentally changing the culture of what's permissible and acceptable, because that man knew that he could walk up, do that, and walk out, and he was right. Look.
Why? Okay. Why did he know that? Was it because of the police that were around? Because they weren't? Was it because of the Twitch security guard that was around? Because they weren't? The only person that was around her that actually did something was her security. Her bodyguard. There wasn't a police around her because they probably barely had it in that building. They probably had it outside the building. Dude, it's Twitch's fault. I'm just going to say that. I'm tired of repeating myself over and again. It's Twitch's fault.
Look at some of the other appalling behavior that we saw at TwitchCon, where these men, these IRL streamers, were rating women, degrading women, harassing and abusing women. Yeah.
What happened to you saying that they had like wait, I forgot. That was the day after. Of course. Oh, you.
Had featured creators like Neon, right, saying the most misogynistic stuff, harassing women. These are partnered content creators, right? These are people that Twitch has like given the seal of approval to.
Yeah, these are people like, I think about how Neon has like a publicist, and I've received PR pitches over the past week, like, do you want to interview this guy?
He was with Iggy Azalea.
Exactly. And it's like, this to me echoes so many of the issues that people don't take seriously. People don't take gendered violence seriously in general. And there's this idea that like online harassment, which directly escalates and leads to these incidences, is not taken seriously. And
I gotta do an experiment. Let's see what's on the front page of Twitch. Oh, would you look at that?
Oh no.
What?
All the cameras are out.
What do you do?
I don't know.
Huh. But Twitch does this, right? But Twitch does
They
this?
could just pay their electric bills so that I could.
Interesting. Interesting. I wish they had the thing up here. These are channels that... Oh, wait. I actually like this girl. Alright, you proved me wrong once, Twitch. But I caught you lacking on this girl. We know what she's doing, bro. It's not Twitch. Or it's not the system of misogyny within Twitch. It's the fact that these higher up CEO, Dan Clancy, is unironically a gooner, and he's not trying to protect them.
And this idea that like police protect
he's not trying
women,
to help
which
them.
is just so far removed from reality, which is that actually like police endanger women.
One Twitch streamer that I spoke to about this incident gave me a quote that I've been thinking about a lot. And he said, what happened at TwitchCon was to a very significant degree unavoidable, not because there weren't enough barriers to accessing VIPs, checkpoints, or staff training, but because this is a Twitch culture issue. Rape culture and hyper misogyny are rampant on the platform from top to bottom. Entire Discord and subreddits are dedicated to stalking and harassing women, POC, LGBTQ streamers. There can't be safety for women at these events until the company takes their concerns seriously on the platform. I thought this was so true and accurate. You know, I interviewed Dan Clancy at TwitchCon.
Yeah,
I
you
asked
did.
him
And I
about
got
the
brought up.
Emiru incident. He gave, kind of a PR bullshit answer. But I also asked him why there weren't more women streamers on the platform. And he didn't have.
You know what I love about this? I knew she was gonna do this. I would love for you guys to tell me what vibe you feel from this.
This was so true and accurate. You know, I interviewed Dan Clancy at TwitchCon. I asked him about the Emiru incident. He gave, kind of a PR bullshit answer.
Kind of a PR bullshit answer. So I pressed him. No, I didn't. This is what she did.
Viewers.
You talked about the kind of the unique bond that people have, and I've seen it so much firsthand of like this very deep parasocial bond, I would say, with Twitch streamers really specifically. I think that reaches a level that doesn't even happen on platforms like YouTube and others. Obviously, we saw one Twitch streamer yesterday, Emiru, get assaulted by a male fan, and a lot of streamers have, especially female streamers, have talked about, the danger that they feel from these sort of toxic, I guess, parasocial kind of creeps. What are you guys doing to prioritize safety? Because I know also a bunch of Twitch content creators said that they were too scared to even come to TwitchCon this year, just in case something like what happened yesterday would happen.
Yeah. So the safety of our creators is a top priority. The challenge we face is a challenge in today's society. It's not limited to Twitch. It extends throughout our society. I do think that when you're
but you have a private
streaming,
event
in many
where you
ways,
can
since
control any
control your
basis
community
thing
and you
of
can ban people, you can make it so that those people that you don't want engaging with you and participating with you aren't there. When I use other short form content and people say all sorts of stuff, well, I can't stop that. But when I live stream, they basically don't bother.
When I live stream and I ban that dude in my chat, it's like he's not real anymore. So like when I go to public events, I just ain't got to worry about him. Because if I get sexually assaulted, they'll just get banned. How often is this dude on the fucking internet? Because he's talking as if if he bans someone in his Twitch chat, they're just gone forever. Like, I don't understand this idea that he's trying to portray.
Now, what happened yesterday, obviously,
especially as a fellow
something that
gooner.
We care deeply about securing this environment. We're looking very closely at everything that happened there, and I care deeply about Emmy. She's a friend of mine, and so I want to see how we can support her to do that. But this is just something we have to keep working on. I think everyone identifies our tools in terms of trust and safety as the leaders in the industry about helping creators, but that means there's always more work to be done, because that's the world we live in now.
Demi had posted earlier today that I guess this fan was allowed to cross multiple barriers.
So she read that tweet in front of him and said, so what if she cut the line?
Barriers at TwitchCon. Why should, I guess, streamers trust Twitch to keep them safe at TwitchCon? Because I feel like simultaneously this has been such a secure event to the point that even like journalists have had struggled. Like, it is very secure, but here's this man that just walks up and is somehow able to bypass all these things. So why should they trust the platform when slip-ups or, issues like this have happened?
Right. Well, I mean, as you know, I think you toured some
That was a huge pushback, Taylor. I'm so proud of you for that. I'm so proud of you for pushing back on
But I also asked him why there weren't more women streamers on the platform, and he didn't have a good response. And to me, I don't cover Twitch as much as I do other platforms, but that is in part because it is such a male-dominated space. It is a culture issue to me, where if you look at the biggest creators on the platform, a lot of them are deeply, deeply misogynistic and hateful.
Show some examples then. I agree with her, but come on. Show some examples. I can name a couple. Nick Pullum. uses her kind of Asian girlfriend she has right now for some like weird Asian fetish thing they got going on for his channel. Like literally just all like, hey, look at my girlfriend, I sexualize her all the time. How about Tectone? How about that guy? I'll box you, Tectone. I hate you.
And this culture pervades Twitch in a way that I don't think it pervades other platforms.
100%. And it doesn't surprise me that you would see then like a heightened sort of like safety concern for women on Twitch. It also makes me think about how like when I look at incidences at past conventions that I've been to, a lot of times it is featured creators who are being violent toward other featured creators, like oftentimes male creators being violent toward women. And this occurs like in the privacy of people's hotel rooms. This occurs like in VIP creator spaces. This occurs at after parties where only like featured creators are allowed to be. And the reason for that is because safety does not have to do with like who's allowed in what area or who has what wristband. Safety involves like cultural misogyny and the ability for men to be violent toward women and face zero repercussions. And when women come forward about these things, they are not taken seriously and they are often punished more for speaking up than the men who actually assaulted them or harassed them are for doing these criminal acts.
Yeah, I also just think about the stuff that happened around TwitchCon, because of course you had the convention itself and then you have these parties. Now, previous TwitchCons, there have been people roofied at parties, women have been assaulted. This year we had people like Jack Doherty, this like kick streamers show up and start antagonizing, saying slurs, antagonizing people. There was all these other sort of like kick streamers and people on Rumble. Rumble's a right-wing video platform. Kick is this sort of like content moderation free, like
Sorry, I'm getting some definitely be looking at D. It would definitely be looking at these. This looks it looked a little promising. Looks a little promising. Yeah, that's what I figured. Yeah. All right, let's,
streaming competitor to Twitch. The creators on those platforms are some of the most toxic people on the internet. You also have people on Pump.fun live streaming, these crypto trolls that bought tickets, that came in, that even were antagonizing Dan Clancy, etc. And not antagonizing Dan Clancy in a good way, right? Like not antagonizing him to make things safer, but in a negative way. And so I think it's just so hard as well because streaming culture rewards outrage. And I think a lot of these people have made a name for themselves online by going up and harassing women, attacking people, like being awful, and they can just buy tickets to this convention and get their content. They know that there will be these prominent women here who they can harass.
And so much of this stuff.
So why didn't you say all that? Why didn't you say this with your chest when you saw Dan Clancy himself?
Comes from the objectification of women, which is a huge problem on Twitch because it reflects the broader trends of objectifying women in society. And so when I think about Twitch and its issues with women, I think also about things like community guidelines that patrol women's body parts, how that's been a really controversial issue on Twitch. And the way that the community often responds to these things is to further objectify women, to further sexualize women. And the problem is when men don't view women as equal to them, when they don't view them as people, when they do view them as these sexual objects, that is where this type of violence stems from. So you can't stop this type of violence until you attack the ideology behind it. And that can never be solved with like security measures. It has to be a broader cultural effort.
So hypothetically speaking, let me see how I can word this, because I kind of, as lawyers say, I just gotta shut up and not explain anything. Hypothetically speaking, if there was a convention that had a bunch of security, and when something like that would happen, they would be put in a holding room. And in said holding room, they can never get, like, anything out of it, but the dude just gets his ass beat in it. Do you think people are going to go to that convention wanting to harm people? No. Do you think people would feel more safe knowing, hey, this dude got really messed up when he assaulted a woman at whatever con?
Which is why all of these men online, a lot of them, don't give a fuck about women's safety. Like, you know, we have the loudest voices in the room claiming to, you know, protect Emiru and care about, you know, violence against women. Blah, blah, blah. If people like Ethan Klein, who is simultaneously launching misogynistic hate campaigns against countless women, including myself.
You showed you're showing a title to an article that your friend right next to you wrote. Can I see evidence of Ethan Klein harassing you?
And you. I think of these like
oh, he's an H3 fan. I get it.
Or this like you know, these weird like drama slop accounts that have been posting every single thing that I have said about this Twitch incident, right? And trying to make it seem like somehow like I don't care about women's safety, which is fucking crazy, to the point that this female streamer.
You are unironically sweeping. You could be what the hell is it that that game in the Olympics where they're like, bro, you could do that. You could do that, bro. You could actually be a pro at that.
Streamer Cinna, who's very well known, who, you know, she was even saying like,
Cinna?
oh, you know, Taylor Lorenz
Cinna.
started repeating a bunch of libs of TikTok conspiracies about me. Like, no hate to Cinna. I don't think she probably even knows my work. Like, you know, this woman is probably dealing with a lot herself. But you see,
Cinna is going through a lot herself. Does she watch the internet? Cinna is doing just fine. Cinna is doing just fine. I don't know where you get this idea that anyone who's against you is really going through it, but you need to look in a mirror. Because Cinna's making way more money than you'll ever make in your entire life. In every clip you see her in, she's the only one in her group that's not playing a character. I don't know what to tell you. Taylor, you're 41 without a wife. Or sorry, a wife, my bad. I'm so used to talking to men. That's what I'm saying, talking about misogyny. I'm so used to making fun of men about stuff like this. Taylor, you're right next to Pearl Davis. You're like saying all this, but you haven't lived anything besides being a journalist. And everyone who watches your, like, reads your journalism thinks it's stupid and bad. They're tearing me up in advance.
See this content sort of repackaged to further misogynistic hate campaigns, right? To further this misogynist hate campaign against me and you and others who actually report on gender-based violence. And I think that's what's so disturbing as well, is the weaponization of violence against women to further violent campaigns against women.
This is back to the basics of just like conservative rhetoric in general. And like spaces like Livestream Fails, they lean conservative. They use slurs. They make
Yeah, that's a big slur right there. Big slur, by the way.
fun of marginalized people. Like, they contribute to this very ideology that puts women in danger. It's also so ironic to me that Ethan Klein would act like he cares about women's safety and women on Twitch and misogyny on Twitch, when I think about famously, he like couldn't stop himself from laughing at QT Cinderella when she was talking about being deep faked.
Dude, we're still talking about this. Like, dude, they love randomly choosing when to like and hate people. So, like, wasn't she not just saying QT Cinderella was lying about Hassan's shot caller? Hook that shit. Oh. But, like, did she not say that she was lying?
And
now
having
she's
her
like,
likeness exploited. Like,
and now she's defending QT over her nudes getting leaked that weren't even real nudes. Hate to say it like that, but she's out here crying because somebody put a fake body over hers that had tits out. And she's like, oh my god, I feel so assaulted. Like, bro, she deserves it. She deserved to get made fun of, bro. It was it was nothing. The fact that she should have been creeped out about was that, which she didn't emphasize, was that like what is it? Her boyfriend's best friend was jerking it to it. That's the weirdest part. That's like borderline fucking like creepy as shit. That's like scary in my eyes.
Like, he mocked her, and then when he tried to apologize for it, he like mocked her again. So
Because
it's
it
like
wasn't
these
serious,
individuals
bro.
who
Who
are
cares?
pushing these campaigns are so clearly coming at it from a bad faith perspective because they demonstrate.
You're literally sweeping for a sexual assault right now. You're literally cleaning up for Twitch for a sexual assault that happened to Emiru. And you're like, but the security doesn't matter. Like, they did all they could.
Not only do they not care about women's safety, but they are part of the problem.
Oh, great. I just opened Twitter and the top comment is Ethan Klein responds to Taylor Lorenz claiming he's leading a misogynistic harassment campaign. I don't know what you're talking about, you lunatic psychopath. She's crazy. Keeps lecturing our community, which is majority female, about how I'm dangerous to women. Ethan Klein, women can also participate in misogynistic hate campaigns.
Yeah, congratulations. You're doing it right now. You're right now making it more uncomfortable for women to do things that they want to do. Because you're saying there's nothing Twitch can do to protect you, so you might as well just not do it until we change societal norms. Fun fact, dumbass. That's how you change societal norms, is you go out there and you change them. You don't sit there and talk about how you can't do anything because there's nothing that Twitch could have done. More security, whatever, bro.
Actually often a core part of it.
I keep seeing people say, like, wait until you find out that most misogynistic comments are made by women. And I'm like, wait until you find out. Like, you guys know nothing about feminism. This has been a core feature of the feminist movement for its entire existence. Like, people who actually care about women's safety are fully aware that women perpetuate misogyny. It is like these misogynistic men who have no grasp of what they're even talking about.
And they tokenize women, right? They tokenize the women in their community to say like, oh, look, all these women support me. And it is such like Republican politics as well. I mean, you mentioned this is sort of this conservative ideology. I posted this online, but it's like, let me direct a torrent of harassment and abuse towards a female journalist and repeat right-wing smears about her to thousands of people to show how much I care about women.
You are showing your own tweets. Why are you so cringe?
And safety. Like, it's also like you see this a lot in the UK where they weaponize or here, right, with immigrants, right, where they're weaponize, the rape of a woman by an undocumented person or violence.
Hassan literally laughed at October 7th rapes. Do I believe in what Israel is doing is right? Fuck no, they're disgusting. But Hassan Piker literally laughed at the October 7th rapes. I don't know what to tell you. Why is this not working? Why is my button not working?
Violence against women, to hate on trans women, to hate on marginalized groups, and women's pain and violence against women is so often weaponized to push right-wing reactionary causes, and this is no different.
It reminds me of while campaigning, Donald Trump said that he would protect women whether they like it or not, and then as soon as he was put back in office, his administration defunded pathways for women to report when they were sexually violated by federal agents. So it's like you see this cycle over and over again where the idea of protecting women and women's safety.
Do they realize how stupid they are? Like, unironically? They are saying no amount of more security will help women. But look at how the Trump administration, which by the way I hate Trump too, look how the Trump administration lowered funding to help you get federal agents in trouble if they sexually assault you. But no more security will help you.
Has been so thoroughly weaponized by the right that it's actually used as a cudgel as they take away protections from women, as they objectify women, and ultimately as they enact this violence toward women.
Which is the ideology that a lot of these men support. Like, they do not support actual accountability. They don't want Twitch to rid itself of this culture of misogyny. It's a culture that they benefit from. A lot of these male Twitch streamers, they benefit.
Why didn't you say this to him? Why did you not say this to him? Why are you just lying out of your ass?
From this culture of misogyny. They benefit, by having women objectified. Like, they don't want to change the culture. They just want more security theater that doesn't keep women safe. And they don't actually care about women's safety.
100%. I think, like, when I was reading some of the commentary about this situation, I even saw people using it as like another excuse to bring up Amber Heard from the perspective of like not believing that Amber Heard is a victim. And people on Twitter,
were they not both pieces of shit to each other? She shat on his bed. Like, they were both horrible to each other. That was literally the whole case. Is that we found out they were both disgusting towards each other.
which were major contributors to the idea that like Amber Heard was an abuser and she wasn't a victim. And I'm like, how can you sit there and not believe Amber Heard and pretend that you care about women's safety? If you don't believe Amber Heard, just like bar none, like you don't care about women's safety. And time again, like this platform and every other platform have contributed to like these mass gaslighting events where women's pain is exacerbated under the guise of like caring about abuse. It's so ridiculous and it's so maddening. And these men don't, like, they choose not to see through it because they know that they will ultimately benefit from upholding these systems of misogyny.
I also think that, I wrote about this recently in relation to like the Hassan Piker dog collar incident, but
here it is, boys. Here it is.
See these out of context clips constantly used and weaponized in these campaigns. And I think that actually that video of that person scanning their wristband and how misrepresented that was is like a perfect example of this. Like, people coalesce around a narrative and it's a motivated narrative. Like in this case, a lot of these top streamers hate Dan Clancy. I have no allegiance to Dan Clancy. He could be a terrible CEO. Like I've only reported the company misrepresents campaigns. And I think that actually that video of that reaction to like the Hassan Piker dog collar incident, but you see these out of context clips constantly used and weaponized in these campaigns. And I think that actually that video of that person scanning their wristband and how misrepresented that was is like a perfect example of this. Like, people coalesce around a narrative and it's a motivated narrative. Like in this case, a lot of these top streamers hate Dan Clancy. I have no allegiance to Dan Clancy. He could be a terrible CEO. Like I've only reported the company like marginally, but like I'm not here to like cap for any tech CEO. So, whatever.
It's crazy because you are. Like that's the crazy part, is that you are doing that right now. Like as we speak, you are literally doing that. You are unironically sitting here and glazing Twitch security on how good they were when multiple Twitch streamers who have been doing this way longer than you, 41 by the way, you've been doing something way before this. You are not you're 218,000. You are not a well-known content creator, Taylor. You are a journalist. So I don't know what gives you the balls to talk about Twitch the way you are when literally all of the women in Twitch do not want to go there. Like a majority of women do not want to go there. It is.
But they're sort of motivated to push him out and to show him as this failure. And they think that sort of like maybe leveraging this event will further that goal. And so they launched this like essentially a disinformation campaign where they're sort of like taking all these out of context clips, mischaracterizing them and using them to push this narrative. And it's really frustrating to me because we both reported on this a lot, but like the way people get information now is from this like AUK 3000 account or whatever, which is I guess some teenage,
He's just discovering about Yeet. Yeah, hey guys, a majority of people are getting their news information from a 115,000 follower Twitter account.
Streamer fan, like these sort of like these distributed news systems, these Reddit accounts, etc. People that aren't doing actual reporting, right? People that aren't calling up the company that, makes those scanners or...
I would still love to see that, Taylor. I would still love to see your email to him.
Calling up whatever, or they're just like emailing a customer service rep, right? Like in the Hassan dog collar situation, like they don't actually do any reporting. They don't go to look at the actual caller, right? They're just like doing slop content, basically.
Taylor, QT Cinderella literally said she held it with her own fucking hands, and you said that it's not that. Like that she was lying. So are you now misogynistic for not believing a woman? You not believing in what a woman says?
that mimics journalism. But they, even when presented with any sort of facts that counter their preconceived belief, they double down, they triple down. You cannot convince them that what they've seen is wrong because they keep saying, well, how can I, so you're saying I can't trust my own eyes.
You literally did that. You literally did it. I don't know what else to say. You literally did it.
It's so exhausting, and it is so reminiscent of like the rhetoric that we saw during Deb v. Heard, which has informed so much of like how these events are consumed on the internet and who is granted credibility and who is taken seriously. I also think like another great ongoing example of why surveillance doesn't keep women safe is this ongoing viral discourse around the DoorDash TikTok incident.
Yes. For people that don't know, this DoorDash woman, this delivery woman came up to a door delivery. This man ordered delivery. The door was wide open.
The way they do YouTube is like news, and it makes me want to sleep, bro. It just makes me want to sleep, dude. Like, why are you, like, oh my god, I'm getting just fucked by this tank. Because AI, I don't know what they're doing. Yeah, Bill's just dead now. Like, what's making me mad is that they're like, you know what it is? Next popular thing that happened recently.
Open. This man had his pants down and, you know, was sort of appeared to be sleeping. We don't know if he was actually asleep. Theoretically, he was probably not asleep because he did order the DoorDash order and had exposed himself to this woman. She recorded that. She posted that online. She was promptly fired from DoorDash.
She doxed him, said his full first and last initial, showed his address, and said this dude was trying to sexually assault me. At most, girl, at most, you got sexually harassed, not assaulted. Second, the least for him will be indecent exposure, and you're not gonna like that. I'm gonna promise you that right now, you're not gonna like that.
For violating privacy guidelines, I guess like filming a customer without his consent. Okay, fine. But the point is that she recorded a sexual assault, as you mentioned. This led to this like days of discourse.
What did she do with that video? Hey Taylor, hey Taylor, what did she do with that video after she recorded it?
And abuse. And now we have this AI smear campaign happening right now where essentially she's being attacked and re-victimized and people claiming all sorts of things about her.
100%. And it's like that to me is such a perfect example of why surveillance doesn't keep women safe, because these types of clips can always be weaponized against women. Like, it's so frustrating because at the end of the day, like if the ideology blames women for violence that happens to them, then no amount of security or proof or evidence will ever be enough. And we see this time and time again. And in fact, having all of this material has only served to make this woman less safe. But if she hadn't captured that video, nobody would believe her. And even with that video, people still don't believe her. So it's like, it really is a lose-lose situation for women and girls, like time and time again.
Exactly. I mean, I am just so appalled because when you see that video of the man with his pants down, right? Like, and of course we can't know the motivations, blah, 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 blah. Whether that was intentional or not, that is sexual abuse, right? Like that is appalling what happened. But people are litigating, oh, well, why did she do this? Why did she do this? The video is so quickly weaponized against her. And that is what a lot of video evidence does, right? Like, I mean, the Amber Heard thing is a perfect example too, where like you saw even photographs of her own bruises were litigated. Like there is no amount of evidence or surveillance or whatever that could possibly vindicate a woman because people have already decided that the woman is the villain and the woman is guilty and she is the aggressor and she is wrong in these situations.
Also, like, it's worth noting that this stuff isn't new because even predating a lot of the technology we have now, like studies about bias show and have shown historically that you can show two people the exact same like audio recording, video clip, picture, or like wall of text, and they can both walk away being like, oh, well, it's clear as day. Like my preconceived opinion is reflected in this evidence. So it's like there's not like a universal understanding of what footage reveals. And in fact, it can so easily be weaponized against.
Whatever the hell that means, I think that's just a bunch of bullshit. Like, you just said an actual bunch of bullshit. You said that showing a video to someone means that, like, it doesn't matter what it is. They could have a preconceived notion that, like, is misogynistic and they wouldn't change their mind. So you're telling me if somebody went to court and the girl literally had like the Emiru video, and so you're gonna tell me that judge is gonna let that happen?
Like victims, and it happens
Sometimes
every
it
single day.
happens.
I want to get back to
Emphasis
TwitchCon,
on
'cause
sometimes.
I do think, like, you know, we should
the
talk
judge
about
is a
like kind
horrible
of
person.
what should have been done and like what can be done to actually fix this. Like a couple things too, I'll say is like, I don't know why Twitch has TwitchCon. I guess it must be a moneymaker for them, but no other platform has like an entire convention.
You literally just said VidCon. You went to VidCon. You went to VidCon. What is that for? What do you think VidCon's
to that
for?
platform, as far as I know? Like, I mean, YouTube sponsors VidCon, but even VidCon is so diminished,
There
it
you go.
seems perhaps counterproductive to even have this event. But if it does go forward, I do think that there are changes that need to be made, and like it starts with confronting these systemic issues. Like, I think the first thing that they should do is work aggressively to change the culture of the platform, crack down on misogynistic hate speech, demonetize, you know, content creators that are attacking women, brigading women, and start working to cultivate relationships with women.
Bro. It's the CEO. And you had the chance to do that as a woman. You had the chance to press that man and tell him that he's disgusting for allowing and talking out of his way for a sexual assault. But instead you were like, how do we get more women to the platform? Cute emoji.
Women content creators.
This goes for a number of social media platforms, but among like the ranks of the most followed people, you will always have like these violent misogynists who directly harm and endanger women on the platform, women in their audience, and nothing is done about that. And there is a trickle-down effect where it's like, if some of the most followed people on Twitch face
like
no
Hassan.
repercussions and are actually like, they gain things from misogyny, they gain popularity, they enrich themselves, like they gain status from being misogynistic. So as long as that is the case, it will trickle down into fan behavior, and people going to these types of conventions will learn from the people who basically rule this platform, who are the most visible people on this platform, that this type of behavior is not just tolerated, but encouraged. And then when those people aren't held accountable, it just perpetuates this cycle over and over and over again. When I speak to experts in gender-based violence, something that I hear time and time again is that we've never even tried to hold men accountable for violence against women. Like, we've never even attempted to instill consequences, like widespread consequences for harming women. And so as long as that is the case, of course it will continue, because it's not just that there's no deterrent to this behavior, but it's actually rewarded by the platform and socially by other men.
Yeah, I
you
mean,
could
I
have
think of
pressed
this
him for
guy,
that.
Jake Lucky, who's this gamer who almost 500,000 followers,
Yeah, he's
quote
disgusting.
tweeted this tweet that I posted about security and how actually Twitch was quite secure. And he quote tweeted this video of Neon acting abhorrently, right? And taking advantage of the fact that he had basically carte blanche to do whatever he wanted at that convention because he had the highest level of access given his status as a streamer. And he goes, Twitch's security was insanely strict. And he shows Neon sitting behind Deshae Frost's meet and greet table. And as I said then, like, this man is a Twitch creator who is credentialed, who was invited. That's my whole point, is that
Yeah, the point is why is he on the platform if he's a misogynistic, disgusting pig? Why is he still there? Because Twitch allows it.
like you have the worst people at the top acting like this. That trickles
Yeah, whose
down.
fault
and
is
it's so
that?
disappointing
Who-
because this
just like Dan Clancy said, if you don't like someone, ban them. And it's crazy because that's his platform. So that means he likes Neon. In some extent, that means he likes Neon.
bad faith guy, Jake, of course, gets almost 1 million views on his tweet, thousands and thousands of likes and retweets. And I'm like trying to respond. And I think I have, 37 retweets and just a torrent of misogynistic hate towards me, like, in his replies. So even after the bad behavior coming from the top at TwitchCon, the bad behavior is continuing online, and they're continuing to drive hate and harassment towards women, using violence against women as this sort of pretense on the internet. I think we just need to call out this behavior and start listening to actual women.
It's so clearly bad faith, because it's like, okay, if you agree that this streamer is misogynistic, then surely you're gonna like continue to call this person out, and surely like you'll
Right, Taylor? Right? You'll surely call them out, right, Taylor? Like, when you're gonna talk to the CEO who allows all this disgusting shit on their website, you'll call them out, right, Taylor?
consistently denounce this behavior in all forms. No, of course not. They're this kind of tweet, like, in itself is bad faith harassment of women, like, as you just said. It's just under the guise of like, oh, you guys are in the wrong. And it is so exhausting because all of the people who are joining in on this bandwagon, they all know what they're doing. They all know that they don't care about women. But when you are arguing in bad faith, you have no requirement to like be morally consistent. You have no requirement to actually believe the things you say. And everyone else joining in on this bandwagon comes from the exact same perspective. And so nothing will be done. And if TwitchCon were to continue happening, then this behavior will continue happening because no one in the community actually cares about it. They just want to use it as an example to weaponize against their own political enemies. I think the fact that like Hassan has been brought up in regards to this so many times gives the entire game away, because what on earth does that have to do with these incidents? Nothing. But this is political.
When has he ever won against Dan Clancy? When has he ever won against him? Huh? I'd love to see it.
Gaslighting, like in its purest form, and all of these communities love engaging in it.
The Hassan stuff is so appalling because like the first thing you'll hear, and people were literally saying this as well, like after I interviewed Dan Clancy. Again, I'm a mainstream technology reporter, right? Like I also interviewed Twitch's head of product. I interview leaders of tech companies all the time. Not only did Dan Clancy speak to me, he spoke to Bloomberg, like he speaks to other technology journalists. But on the internet, if you listen to these accounts, it's all just like, it's Taylor's relationship with Hassan. And, you know, that's why he's talking to her because of some Hassan thing. She wants to fuck Hassan. She's obsessed with Hassan. Like, it's disgusting. And it's this dismissal also of my own credentials as a journalist, like, and report, you know, what reporters do. It's always sort of like reframing this woman and her accomplishments or her career in the context of this man and this man streamer, right?
I've also seen like viral posts taking Emiru's response where she explains the situation and turning it into a meme and saying that like she's being blackpilled. So basically they are using this incident to say that like women who are victimized are becoming conservative and holding conservative.
That's not what blackpill means. Why do we have these 40-year-old women talking about internet? They don't know what is going on the internet, bro. That's not what blackpill means, man.
Ideology as a result. The sad thing about that is that there is truth to the idea that like when women experience systemic misogyny and sexism, it does sometimes like lead to people becoming more conservative because it's like such a backwards ideology that is just so propagandistic in nature. It's the same thing where it's like
blackpill is when black pill is when you give up on everything. Like you don't think anything works. Nothing's worth it. Like nothing will ever work. It's kind of what you're doing with security right now. Taylor Lorenz.
When conservative far-right groups take examples of like white women being abused or even murdered by like men of color, they will take those incidences and they will weaponize it against entire immigrant communities in support of their far-right ideologies.
This is not what's
and they
happening.
regularly do this, like despite the pleas of the families of these women and even of these women themselves to not weaponize these cases. But it just goes to show in itself this is a form of objectification of women. Like they don't actually care that she was violated. They don't actually care that she was assaulted. They just want to further objectify her and use her to push their own ideology.
Exactly. And I think it's so funny that this same Jake Lucky guy, who's of course like dunking on me or whatever, is also boosting this clip of this guy, American Dad Live, asking Dan Clancy basically like, why hasn't he banned Hassan? Like that's the subtext. He's saying like, you know, would he properly enforce certain streamers, what certain streamers have said that America deserved 9/11, veterans deserve PTSD. It's basically like, why haven't you deplatformed them?
I don't know what's going on with my monitors. Hold on a second. This is cringe. We're back. I don't know what happened. Nuclear.
The people that I don't like.
They want me.
And, you know, boosting this conservative, bad faith American dad guy as if he's holding, like...
But, my bad. Like I was saying, though, that was shitty. What I was saying was, who said America deserved 9/11? Taylor? Who said that? Taylor, who said that? Who's the goofy guy who said that?
Twitch accountable. It's
Who's the goofy girl that said veterans deserve PTSD? Said that. I'd like to hear it from you, Taylor.
way.
And like the truth of the matter is, politically speaking, there is misogyny on like all sides of the aisle. Like there's not like one place politically where you can go where like women are actually taken seriously. However, like generally speaking, most people who actually value women and who actually oppose misogyny are going to be progressives. So the fact that like all of this comes back to this like conservative agenda just goes to show like how bad faith it is. And it's just like, it blows my mind that people are still falling for this idea that like conservatives actually care about women. They don't. Like they're just like objectifying and using violence against women as a way to further an agenda that is, again, objectifying and violent toward women.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be so hard for Twitch, you know, to ban streaming. Like this is a streaming convention. I highly doubt that they're going to ban live streaming at the live streaming convention, if only because on the actual floor of the convention, like there are so many booths set up for live streaming, and
Why
there are all
would they
these
do
companies
that?
that want to demo their technology, and so they're showing off live streaming. But I do think that there's just a cultural shift that can happen. I don't know if you've attended the National Association of Broadcasters conference in Vegas. It's this massive, there's tens of thousands of people that go. It's huge. It takes over like the Vegas Convention Center, and it's for broadcasters, and there's a huge live streaming aspect. Like they invite a lot of streamers. It's all basically like TV news people from around the country, but anybody that sort of broadcasts live footage. There are lots of content creators. They have an entire creator track, but you don't see this type of behavior because it's a professional event. And it's very focused on like professionalism. And, you know, you have people live streaming all day and demoing their technology, but there's not this sort of antagonistic energy to it. I don't know if there's a way for them to automatically ban Rumble creators. Obviously, I think certain people should be banned from the venue. I don't think Jack Doherty was allowed in the venue even in this year.
Even though he
But
was there?
I feel like culturally they have to do
Even
something
though he
to
was
change
there?
behavior on Twitch, because until then, I don't think the platform will be successful. I think it will continue to remain niche. And let's be real, I brought this in my interview to Dan Clancy. This is the 4th year that Twitch has seen declining user base. And yes, it's still up from 2016 or whatever. But when you look at the broader social landscape and ecosystem, Twitch is down here, right? We have YouTube, TikTok, Meta, then there's sort of like these like lower tier platforms, and I just don't think that the platform will
She really
scale.
thinks
And
Meta
simultaneously, we do have a lot more
or,
women entering the live
like,
streaming
Twitch is
space. I
lower?
mentioned Amazon itself has live streaming now for shopping.
It's Twitch and YouTube. That's what it is. Nobody's sitting there watching TikTok lives. Like, no one sits there and watches TikTok lives, bro. I think even Papa Gut said, what is it? It's just toilet content? Sit on the toilet and watch it? I think that's what it is.
Primarily, but you have women live streaming on the Like to Know It app, on Instagram Live. You have a lot of lifestyle influencers going live all the time. Like TikTok Live, of course, is massive, and they're trying to get people to multi-stream on TikTok Live. Not that any of those spaces are safe for women. They all have their own problems, but I think Twitch seems to be sort of further and further declining. And in that sense, I do think it's a failure, of Dan Clancy to not change that culture.
So why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you say anything?
Yeah, and I think that it is like it'd be very difficult to change the culture of a platform that I think particularly grew around misogyny. Like it would take so much work. I don't think it's a project that could be accomplished within the span of a year. It's also like such a hard thing to do when it's ultimately reflective. Like the culture on Twitch is reflective of the broader culture of misogyny. And the project of dismantling misogyny is one that will continue forever. It will never be finished. And so I think that like it's a really difficult job to do, but what they're doing now they're not even really trying to like dismantle misogyny. They're not even having the conversation. So it would at least have to start there. And I think like your question of like why there aren't more women on the platform is such a good one, because it really gets to the heart of the issue of like, if the culture doesn't even accept women to begin with, then of course you will continue to have these issues.
And of course, they're not going to do any of this when they're potentially about to be hauled in front of Congress under a Trump administration. I asked Dan Clancy about this in my interview, but there was this hearing, it was postponed, the government shut down. I think they will eventually have the hearing where they're pulling up the CEOs of Discord, Steam, Reddit, and Twitch following the Charlie Kirk shooting, arguing that it's radical, whatever. Essentially, Twitch is the one platform where like Hassan Piker basically is. I think all of this is an effort to basically deplatform him and other sort of leftists on Twitch.
Maybe because they're saying we deserve 9/11 and veterans deserve PTSD. It couldn't be for that, right? It has to be because they're pro-Israel and only able... That's the only website where you can judge Israel, right, guys?
Twitch is also the one platform that hasn't caved to government pressure yet to censor speech. And I think that that's going to be harder and harder to do. So I highly doubt that they're going to like turn around and start, banning misogynistic streamers. I think that would just so quickly be weaponized against them by the Trump administration and would be used to potentially try to get the platform shut down or to punish it in some way.
I don't think so.
100%. And I think that like when I saw all of this unfolding on social media, that was my first thought, is like to think about the political backdrop and the context under which all of this is happening, which is that Twitch is being subjected to like a very highly funded, like very specific, like bad faith campaign around issues that they do intersect with women's safety, but they are so far removed from like the topic of discussion around like this specific assault or this specific environment. But it's so hard to have a conversation about it without recognizing that like so much of this stems from that bad faith attempt to ultimately deplatform Hassan Piker and to punish Twitch for allowing like this type of progressive anti-Israel speech.
Yeah, dude, I called it. I literally called it anti-Israel speech. I don't know how many discussions we've had on this YouTube channel, and I'm a nobody. I'm not freaking stupid. I'm not dumb. But
Twitch is the one platform, because it's live streaming, it doesn't have real-time moderation. So of course you can't criticize Israel on TikTok, you can't criticize Israel on Meta, you can't criticize Israel on YouTube. Twitch is a place that one streamer, which is Hassan, and then a few other smaller ones, of course, like Twitch is overwhelmingly not a progressive space, but have been able to speak out. We saw Creators for Palestine happen with Twitch. I wrote about this actually a year ago, about how Twitch had become this bastion for leftist sort of content. And I think
that she's always showing Hassan. Is Hassan the only Palestine defender? Or is it the only one that she's trying to have sex with? Because there's a lot of people out there that Hassan doesn't like. But I'll tell you this, they're still anti-Israel. But Hassan does not like him.
That the government is very eager to
kind of suspicious that you don't show any of them.
That they will be successful, and that will only exacerbate the problem of harassment and misogyny.
Any conversation about like what's happening at that level, it's no coincidence that this rhetoric of like men need to protect women and like federal police and agents need to protect women, it coexists with exactly what the Trump administration is doing. It's literally the same ideology.
I just want to reiterate again that I'm so disgusted by the response from these bad faith trolls saying that people like me, or I'm sure they're going to say this about you, don't care about gender-based violence.
You don't. You do not. You, just like Hassan, use this type of shit to run your rhetoric and run your bullshit. You don't care about women. You don't. Just because you do a bunch of stuff for women doesn't mean that you care about women. Just like how you were saying women can be misogynistic, you are basically, like, in my eyes, you are misogynistic. You said through this whole video that even with more security, women are defenseless. Women's problems with IRL streaming or women's world problems is because of IRL streaming, because you didn't refrain that. You didn't say that properly, and they're just going to act like everyone understands what you said. That didn't make any sense at all. I'm still confused on that point. Yeah, I understand that misogyny's all over Twitch, but that's just life. Misogyny's everywhere. Like, we're stuck with it. We're trying to figure it out.
don't
You're not
care
helping.
about women's safety, something that we both have dedicated a significant portion of our careers to, you especially even more. But like, I mean, I wrote about Gamergate extensively. I covered this in my book. Writing about the weaponization of the internet against women is something that I have written about and experienced very publicly for years and years. And so to say, yes, Twitch was very secure. Yes, they actually had way more security than other conventions. That does not make it safe. That is not like simping for Twitch or whatever, which I'm very critical of. That is
You're
not
actually simping for
defending a
Hassan.
corporation. All these corporations, fuck Amazon especially. It is simply trying to redirect the conversation towards the root problem and the fact that this is a bad faith campaign actually aimed at distracting people from the real problem, which is misogynistic abuse and hate and harassment. And that underpins all of this. And you can never have safety for women until that root problem is fixed, because you can have all the security theater in the world. It's not going to prevent the violence against women that we saw this year at TwitchCon.
You're totally right. And I
You're
think
totally
that, like,
right.
if I could reiterate
And let me read
one
my
message for
script
people
from the
to take
news
away,
article.
It's that security theater does not protect women. It is a psychological sort of construct to make people feel safe that ignores all of these root issues. Increased policing does not protect women. Militarization does not protect women. And these sort of conservative ideologies around like protecting women with men at their root cause, it just endangers women more. So like, if I could have people take one thing away from this, it would be that it is about dismantling misogyny. It is not about enacting more control and more surveillance around women in their lives.
Yeah, I saw one Twitch streamer who I love, but was even saying, and I'm sure maybe he was saying it in like a joking way, but like, oh, you know, too many of the security guards at Twitch were twinks. Like they were small. We need like big burly men to be security guards. And I'm sure he was joking, but it's like these little things that drive me crazy because, as you said, like having big burly men around does not inherently make women safe. Having 24/7 IRL live streamers around does not inherently make women safe. You know, having all the kind of like wristband bullshit in the world, like, again, should we have a baseline level of security? Yes. But all of that stuff will not prevent so much of the just disgusting stuff that women had to deal with at this year's convention and previous year's convention. And I think that Twitch needs a radical culture change. And I think the influencer world generally needs to confront its misogyny problem, because although Twitch is the sort of the nexus of a lot of this stuff, it's all over Reddit. It's all over YouTube. It's all over Twitter. Like, it is this like network of hate that spreads across the entire internet.
Yeah. Hate will never make women safer. It will only put them in more danger.
Well, Kat, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I can't even think of the opposite word of thank you. I fucking hate both of you. You guys wasted a majority of my time today. I'm so happy that I had to sit here for an hour watching absolute trash. I hope I never got to talk about Taylor Lorenz again. This was horrible. I originally didn't understand the hate for Taylor Lorenz. I was like, it's just some random wokey. Like, who cares? We all got a little wokey in us, you know? We all like our left-leaning ideas. And then, lo and behold, there's a 41-year-old terminally online woman who just loves Hassan. I don't know. Just like Critical, I'll see you.